Coach, what a fantastic start you've made to your career in Arizona.
I mean, really good season, probably better than I expected. You don't really know what to expect when you take over a program. You see the kids that you have, everything, but you don't know what you're gonna have. So it was to me, it was a very successful season. Results wise, but also my team. I love the kids that I have. They're very international, but a lot of different cultures, a lot of different personalities, but they all blend in very well. They work really hard, which is great to see on the course. But just coming off and having that first win was unbelievable. But the first win, it was really special because I've never really had as much fun as I've ever had in that tournament. We laughed a lot. Just coming in, having that, experiencing just the first year as coach, as a head coach, and blending in. And I'm I would say I'm the same person. You just get the same person, the same coach. Really, you don't change as much. You just need to blend in what you have. That's a coach that I am. Like, you have to be very careful coming into a new place, and you have to set up your rules and what you do and your culture. But at the same time, you really have to respect these kids because they're going through a change, and it's probably just as hard or harder for them too. So for me, it was a slow process of getting to know them, what clicks with each kid, what doesn't. That was my biggest thing. It was just getting to know them, what clicked. Our first week here, we did qualifyings, and my assistant and me, we caddied for each of the girls in a qualifier. So I kind of really got to know them better. But it's just fun. That part of the job is the fun part. The administrative, new head coach, all of that is the part that we don't like, but it's part of it. And I know you guys are from close St. Andrews, but that was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had, as a coach and as a player. Just being at St. Andrews, the tradition, the golf that you have there, and then my kids just like, I mean, it was, you don't have a practice round in that tournament. We played Jubilee 2 days, which we didn't do that well. I mean, Northwestern beat us on that part. And then we go into the old course, and you've watched it, and you think these kids have watched these course a lot on TV, but no, sometimes they don't. So going over these course with them and where the bunkers are and how to place yourself, because it's really wide, but you have to place yourself, because if not, then you can't really attack these spins. And it's really interesting, but almost not knowing the course really benefited us because they were more like, I'm just playing, enjoying, hitting it where I think it is. But I mean, one of the kids shot 66, Charlie shot 66, and she's like, Coach, I made everything, and it's just the best round of my life. So it's really cool when you put together the fun part and also the great results too. That makes sense.
Had you played the old course, or had you been to St. Andrews before, Coach?
I have never played it, and I didn't when I was there. I played Castle Course, Kings Barn, and Dumbarney while I was there, which was, I mean, unbelievable experience. I don't think you can go wrong with any course out there. You can't. But St. Andrews is special. I mean, coaching there was, I know playing would be amazing. I had just been there just on property one other time because I went recruiting in Scotland before for A&M. But besides that, it was like my first real experience. I've had a lot of people ask me, how was that? How was that experience? And to me, like, if you're going to so in college golf, you can only do outside of your country one time every 4 years. And I was like, if you're going to do something like this and you're going to take that, I would 100% recommend St. Andrews. And for some reason, my team loves to play good on TV. So it's a good thing. Yeah. Yep.
That's certainly a good habit to have, and also, so young in your head coach career to be lifting a trophy at the home of golf. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, are you slightly worried about finding things to top that now?
It's so funny, like in the athletic department in Arizona, they're like, you set up the bar so high now, there's no going down anymore. And I'm like, yes, but it's a great thing. It's a great thing for recruiting and for like just keeping the program going up and up, and how these kids, it was great and we loved it and the experience and the semester, but they were all ready to come back and be like, how do we get better to win in postseason, which is like, they're like, every tournament matters. And now with clipped scoreboard, every tournament is so important, even if it's the first tournament or the last tournament, which is great. You know, everything counts. But no, it's so special that I'll never forget that memory of St. Andrews. And the weather was awesome. I mean, I know it's crazy to say that, but the rain, and it wasn't cold. It was raining, but what's Scotland without some rain and wind? You know, I think it's part of it.
Exactly. You can't go to the old course and play it without wind.
Yeah.
It's not correct. But an amazing start to your career. You won straight out of the gates, as you mentioned, at Folds of Honor. 2 tournaments later, you win the St. Andrews Links Collegiate. Has it surpassed, and the team's performance and the results, has it surpassed expectation?
We set up goals at the beginning of the year, but it wasn't really. I think the good thing that we did is that we didn't really set up an expectation for the team. I think everybody had a little bit of expectation individually and how to do better. I have an old team. I have 2 great seniors, 3 juniors, you know, like they're all big expectations on themselves to do well for the next step. So I think individually we had big expectations, but as a team, it was more about let's everybody get 1% better every day. Let's like it was more about process. Like that's what I focused the most with them. I was like, it's gonna be a build up a little bit through the year. You don't really know what to expect. You have incredibly talented players, but talent doesn't necessarily transfer right away into the golf course. And you don't know how their life is here, how they're gonna feel about the new coaching. Like I always feel like women's golf is all about how you feel you're gonna play. So for me, that was a big. So the expectations there were not really huge expectations, but even setting up our goals, it was. I mean, it was like everything was about a process. So I think that's big. The biggest thing I've seen in this team, it's how we do well every day that has transferred to that. And now I think the expectations are higher.
Coach, tell me a little bit about what Arizona golf, University of Arizona golf meant to you growing up as a young golfer in Mexico City.
Well, this is, I mean, so much history. This has brought me closer to Lorena that I ever thought. We were close, even though she's older than me. Mexico's golf is such a small world, and we always knew each other. But this has brought me so close to her. I mean, we talk a lot. We text constantly. I went home, and I brought her gear. Like she has made tournaments back home, and she puts Arizona now everywhere. So Arizona always meant a lot to Mexico golf because we had Lorena here, Ale Yanesa, so many players here that have gone. It was like the dream school to go to in Mexico. Just honestly, just because Lorena came here and how good this program was. Annika too. I mean, it was. So for me, it was always a dream to come to Arizona. My sister came on a visit here. We loved it. So coming here with the roots that it has from Mexico was the biggest. I mean, to me, it was just no brainer to come here. But growing that was amazing. I want to grow more into that, the roots of Mexico here, the international background. I love how international we are, as I'm international too. I think the blending women's golf, it's very international. And blending those cultures is amazing. Being young in this industry, I think brings a lot of challenges to it, but also connects me really well with these kids. And I really understand where they're coming from. I came to another country too. So there's a lot of connections there that as a young coach, I can connect to them and understand their world in a way, because we live in such a different world now with social media and what matters to these kids, which is, it's crazy, but it's what they live in. And but it has this community, and these people are really special. Everybody's so welcoming. I mean, I found so many people from Mexico here that have welcomed me a lot. That in Texas, they have a lot of Spanish speakers, but College Station is pretty like small, more like it's not really Latin, I would say. And here I found a way, bigger community and very supportive in Hispanic roots. And that has been a huge impact for me as a coach and as a person too.
Your predecessor, Laura Ainello, talked about putting, the Mexican roots back into the program.
Yeah.
Is that something that that factors into how you want to build the program, as the head coach now, even though you're filling such big shoes from the past?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think like I hope like Mexico's like juniors, and I think they're getting better. Because Lorena is doing a lot more for junior golfers, and they're really building more. I think we had there was always a huge generation of great players like Maria Fassi, Gabby Lopez. Like there's always like couple years that have great players, and that's what I'm looking for. There's always like Clarissa from Mexico just won the Latin American Amateur. Like there's always one or two kids, and I want to make Arizona home for them because it has become more Arkansas, which is great because Shauna is amazing. But I think like that would be something that's one of my goals as a coach, especially being from Mexico.
What is the most important lesson that you've learned from being around someone like Lorena?
I think her biggest strength was her mental game and how she approached the game. Just talking to her, the way she like approached the game, how she started and ended her family, the sacrifices, the life that she lived. I think that's been the biggest learn from me. Just really teaching these kids what it's all about, how this life is, like being pretty real and how to prepare the best for that world. That's one of the reasons like why I went to caddy for a former player at Q school. Like I'm like, I want to learn. I don't want to just have my kids prepare out for college, but also all of these kids want to be the best golfer in the world and go to the LPGA. So I want to be that coach for them. And I think Lorena is it's a great source for that. Like what were the tools? What did she use? What did she do? All of these things to get to the level that she was. I mean, for her, it was always like getting there is step one. Staying, it's way harder. Like staying, being number one constantly. And her experience in that way and how she tackled everything without being overwhelming and still enjoying the game of golf. That's been my biggest thing. But at the end of the day, for her, it was all about the love for the game and her family. I think the biggest thing I have from her is like she knew herself perfectly. And I think that's what I want to implement to my players. It's like you need to know yourself completely in and out for when you're in those situations. You know yourself. So that's the biggest thing that she has told me and kind of implemented. I think there's so much I still have to learn from her.
I wanted to speak to you about your playing career, Coach, because you had an illustrious college career, and really how much your playing career at college at Baylor and the success you had there has influenced the coach that you have become.
I mean, I think huge. Still now I get to play sometimes with the players. I think there's respect there from players when you have a good career and you can really identify with them when you're a player too. When you play with them, when you go on the course, I think it puts yourself in their shoes a lot better. You know, I was there. I know what they're going through. I know that a breakup with a boyfriend can affect their golf because it's the end of the world. Like it's okay. It seems silly to us, but that's how their world is. And I think being a college player and how overwhelming that world seemed to me, being a student and managing golf and managing school and managing your social and all of that, I think it's just knowing that and actually have it not so long ago, I think really helps me to become a better coach for them. It's not that I'm making up anything. It's like I've been through it. I've been international too. I know the process of a visa or staying here or all of those little things that I think matter at the end. You have the answers for it. But I was in a national championship my freshman year and we were runner-up, and I know what that pressure feels like and what that week looks like to go into as a player and as a coach and how tired you can get in that final round. And so I think all of these experiences have only helped me to become a better coach
You've worked under some great coaches or been around some great coaches.
Yeah.
Jay Goble brought you into college golf, Mike McGraw,
Mhm.
Ayla. Talk to me a little bit about what you've taken from each of these coaches, whether you've worked for them directly or just been around them in the program.
I mean, my swing coaches from home have always been an impact for me. My dad started me on the game. So every single person has left something in me. Jay believed in me. He followed me since I was 12. I think the just how he invested in me since day one. He's a great player too, which I took a lot from him, like how good he plays, how competitive he is. He's a great recruiter. And I took a lot. I think like from him is that he always meant the best. And in 4 years, you can have ups and downs. As a player, you kind of sometimes blame people for things. And as a coach, like it's on you, decisions that you make here and there. And I think as a coach, you really put everything in perspective. Like as a player, you don't see not even half of the things that go on in the coaching world and how much these coaches have on their plate and the pressure and you don't really see it as a player. But Jay, I mean, he was great player, just very passionate. He cares so much about the players. I took a lot that from him. McGraw was someone that he came in at the same time that I came in at Baylor. And he's the hardest working coach I've ever seen in my life. He was in the office at 4, left later. But I think like what I love, McGraw was like the note taking that he's always done, how he learns from everything, journaling. But the biggest thing from him that I have loved over the years is how he cares so much more about the person than the player, and how he will always even sacrifice results and tournaments to make the player grow into a better person than just results right away. That sometimes you don't see that a lot. I mean, I was part of a team there that he left his best player because he had terrible behavior on the course. And he left him for a tournament to teach him a lesson. And as a coach, that's so hard to do because you're jeopardizing a tournament. And for sure, it was his best player. He would have done a lot better, but he did that to teach a lesson and to grow this man into a better person in the long run. And I think like just what he did in that lesson as a coach, it takes a lot for someone to do that, but just what that means to each kid, I'm trying to do the same and follow his example. The way I mean, that's my biggest lesson for him. I learned so much from my coach at South Alabama too, smaller school, but he was super technical, developed each kid way more. You develop those kids a lot more. So I learned so much more about the swing, short game, putting with him that I never thought possible. I mean, TPI, aim point, all of these little things that I really think you need as a coach. And I learned so much from that in that sense. Very simple, to the point, with low budget. You really learn from each of these coaches something different. And I mean, obviously, I think my biggest influence has been Garrett at A&M. We had amazing 3 years. I think as a head coach now, I kind of really getting into this role, I saw more of what he did too. We match really well as an assistant, as a head coach. Like I want that in my team to have an assistant, great. But G really cares so much about each kid, which I think that's one of the reasons why we did so well. Like he truly cares, but he knows a lot about the game too. He cares a lot. He has a great experience. He has a wife that it's been on tour. Like I learned so much from Stacy there too, asking her so many questions. Like she's not someone that she will come to you and tell you, hey, I think you need to work on it. But if you ask her anything, she'll answer everything you can think of and tell you. So I learned so much from him and from her in my 3 years, but I would never be where I am without any of these people, especially Garrett and what he did these last 3 years. And I think like a lot of things that I do now come from all of these people that have made an impact in me.
You had great success with Garrett at Texas A&M, reached the match play stages 3 seasons in a row. I mean, obviously, you went all the way to the championship match with Baylor as a player, and you've experienced the match play stages as a coach. How do you describe the differences between those experiences?
I would say yes, it's different. It's a different kind of pressure. It's a different kind of nerve. Um, I don't miss the shaking and trembling and being super nervous and that I had to hit the shots. But in a way, you have the control of it as a player. As a coach, you do not, and you cannot see everything. You cannot help everybody. You have to trust them to do what you worked on the whole day, the whole year for them. So it's a different kind of pressure. And as a player, you kind of like have it more on your hands. As a coach, you just watch. But it's about the experience at the end of the day and getting yourself into that position over and over again. I mean, at A&M, we were there 3 years. We kept fighting and putting each other there. That's the biggest thing. You just have to keep knocking on the door. But I think it's a very different pressure, but great pressure, if that makes sense. As a coach, like for me, I get nervous. I got way more nervous as a player than as a coach. As a coach, I think like I do, but I try to really focus on the things I can control. So talking to my players, preparing them, doing everything I can for them to be right. And at the end of the day, I'm like, what's meant to happen is going to happen.
Well, you found a way through it as a player, because in that 2015 run to the championship match, you performed, you had a 2 out of 3, I believe, record in the match play. You obviously found something deep in yourself, despite, as you describe it, shaking and trembling on the first team. Tell us a little bit about your memories of that run, that match play run in 2015, and what it gave you as a person and as a player in terms of belief.
I mean, I think the nerves, it's a good thing. It's a great thing. It means you care, you love it. I mean, I think that year we had a lot of, especially that semester, we won at Palos Verdes, we won conference, regionals, like we won. So we were in that situation, not the same, but the nerves were the same. So I think I was in that position over and over again. But I like match play. It's almost like a rewind in every hole. But I mean, I don't know if you know concession pretty well, but that's a hard golf course. Like you can't miss it all. It was long. Par fives were super long, but the nerves are always there. You just got to learn how to play with them. I think I was really, really nervous my first couple holes, and then you just kind of start getting into, okay, like I just need to think shot by shot, swing by swing, really get into that. And then you're nervous and you can barely feel your hands. And I did not think I was going to be able to hit the ball. Like, there's no way I'm going to hit this ball. And I was one of the 2 last matches. I was the second to last. And my coaches were already in front of us because the second hole is pretty hard. So it was just me and Haley on that back end. And, but just the teammates that we had really helped me, to feel like you had to do your work and I had to win my match, but I always knew I had people behind me that can have my back. And I think that's the best thing about college golf, that there's always that you have people that support you. And if you have a bad day, you have them with you too, but you're always trying your best.
You've got a lot of experience of getting to match play at Texas A&M, and as a player, you've got some great senior players. Where do you think you can get to this season with this team?
Obviously, you want to win a national championship, and that's your goal, right? But how are we going to get there? Like, that's an end result that comes, like, we cannot control that, but we can control it every day. So for me, if I get every single one of these players good and better every single day, we saw that we missed so many shots putting. Like, if we putted a little better on our second and third event, we would have done a lot better. Just a couple shots here and there in every event out of putting. Like, there's a lot of more things, but so we've been working on everybody's putting a lot more. So it's like those little goals for every player. I think if you focus on getting every kid better in their strengths and better in their weaknesses, just a little better, it makes a huge difference when you have 4 strokes or 4 people counting. So it's like if you do 4 shots around just by literally making another 4-footer or making another 5-footer for every kid, you literally can go from being 10th to being 2nd every week. So for me, it's on that. It's like grinding in every player and seeing how I can get a little better every single week for them to be in their best or as good as they can be at the end of the season. Obviously our goals is to go out there and win every single tournament and do our best, but I don't mind actually if we don't win at the beginning, if that means we're getting better every single day for us in the long run. So I think that's what I transfer to my girls a lot. It's like, let's make sure we're learning from what do we learn from every single tournament so we don't do it again and we keep getting better every single week.